of October 2024, 6 p.m. Council Chambers, Midland Town Hall meeting for the Agenda Forum, and I declare the meeting open. And I'd just like to start with our acknowledgement of country. And that is the City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to our elders past, present and their descendants. I'll just have a quick announcement to make. So welcome to everyone in the gallery tonight, and thank you very much for coming down. I don't think we expected such a big turnout tonight, so it's really lovely to see everyone that's made the journey in tonight. I'd just like to acknowledge that this week we had our big NAIDOC week, and we certainly had a big celebration yesterday at Wheat Park in Midland. And we'd just like to share with you a very short video to show the highlights from the Aboriginal cultural celebrations in our community.
I just felt good. At first I was like shy and all, but like as soon as I came down on the show, I felt relieved, I felt confident, and I felt inspired, especially me being a good role model and walking on the stage. Everyone looked up to me and I really enjoyed it.
I felt very confident in myself. My confidence is very boosted up since like the first time I did the runway.
I got nervous a bit, but once I got on the stage, I just walked like I didn't care. What I enjoyed most would be showing off my outfit in front of everyone.
For the whole program, I've definitely felt very confident. I've made new friends. I feel like I've inspired some people around me, like obviously family. And if I was to recommend the program to other people, I definitely say that it definitely brings out your confidence in yourself, and it does make you feel like you've got opportunities and a pathway to lead to.
When I was walking down the catwalk, I felt nervous, but I can feel all the eyes on me. I just loved walking. My favourite thing being on the catwalk is everybody cheering for me, all my family there. So I'll be doing this for a long time.
Amazing. I love doing shows with Miranda and Peter. It's really made me more confident about myself. It's made me come out of my shell a lot. The program is amazing, especially for teenagers who haven't been confident about themselves.
Marvellous. I think they did a great job. And just a little bit of background on that particular video, if you weren't there. Between Midland Gate, the partnership between the City of Swan and also NAIDOC, the fashion parade that was put on for some of our Aboriginal youth, they displayed it on a runway in Midland Gate Shopping Centre, and I must admit it choked up the whole of the Chemist Warehouse end of Midland Gate. So it was a fantastic effort from all of the youths that were involved, and it was quite a long lead up of, I think it was 6 months for them to come regularly, and also to showcase some of the fashion in Midland Gate, but also some of our great Aboriginal designers as well. But it gave the kids a great sense of purpose, but also their self-esteem was significantly boosted after that particular partnership in that project. So thank you to all the staff that were involved, and a big thanks to Midland Gate Shopping Centre as well. Now I'd just like to start with the attendance and apologies. We have everyone in the chamber. We have missed it. So I'll just read that disclaimer just so that everyone knows. I'm sure you're aware that the terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are posted at the entry of the public gallery, so it'll just be out there in the door, and members of the public are advised to read them prior to attending this meeting and abide by them. So tonight's attendance and apologies. We have Councillor Jagdeep Singh online and Councillor Podovnik attending electronically, and we have apologies from Councillor Knight, and also Councillor Aringo is on leave at the moment. So we'll just start with part 4, which is declarations of financial proximity interest and interests affecting impartiality. So if councillors have any declarations, could they please fill out the form and just hand that up to the CEO? We have petitions. We have Ms Angela Charlesworth, who's the chairperson for the Noise Wall Action Group Subcommittee of the Swanview Community Association, and a petition to bring forward. Thank you. If you'd like to just hand that up, you might be able to hand it to Mr Russell. Thank you very much, Councillor. Yes, we'll read that one out.
I think Ms Charlesworth would like to read it out, actually. I think that's the process.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to come up to the podium and just push the little button there.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Angela Charlesworth and I live in Swanview. I'm chairperson of the Noise Wall Action Group, a subcommittee of the Swanview Community Association. On behalf of the communities of Stratton, Swanview, Midvale, Jane Brook and Greenmount, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Council for working with our committees to address the issues resulting from the Movida acoustic noise wall, and also to thank the staff for helping to facilitate this process. Councillors should have a copy of our response in full, so I'm not going to read it out to you to take up your valuable time. In view of the fact that the consultant commissioned by the City to provide a report on the effect of the noise wall stated the magnitude of the noise reflected is unknown and that the reflected noise may be occurring. I'm here to present a petition signed by 240 City of Swan electors, effectively putting their names to our submission, which in summary requests that the Council conducts new sound measurements that will identify the magnitude of the reflected noise across various locations, days and times in order to enable an effective solution to be identified, and is defined by the common community sentiment: we just want our lives to go back to the way they were before the noise wall was built. Many people are concerned about the consequences of the yet to be built sections of this wall, and many people are expressing their shock and distress with the increased noise and vibration resulting from the section currently being built opposite Stratton. I would ask Council to consider that whilst it may be claimed you have no responsibility for the effect of the decisions on the City's neighbouring local government areas, you do have a moral responsibility. With this in mind, please take into account that we also have a petition with 60 elector signatures ready to present to the Mundaring Shire. Once again, I thank you for working with our community and look forward to your ongoing support through this process as we embrace cooperation in addressing a situation that is clearly destroying literally hundreds of people's quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms Charlesworth, and I'm just going to hand that one over to the CEO. Thank you. And move on to part 6, which is reports and notices of motion, and 6.1, additional information from officers. There is nil tonight. And we move to 6.2, which is deputations. So in accordance with the current procedures for public participation at agenda forums, all requests for in-person deputations were required by 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 1st of October 2024. And all written deputations received by 3 p.m. Tuesday the 1st of October 2024 were circulated with the preliminary agenda on Tuesday evening. And the first item we have is 14.3.1. This is the Bullsbrook South Structure Plan, and there's multiple properties in Bullsbrook, and it's Swan SP 2024/2. And we have first in-person deputation, Mr David Parsons from the Road Group Design, in support of the officer's recommendation. Thank you, David, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors from City of Swan and planning officers in attendance. I'm Dave Parsons, actually Development Director at Mirvac, joined by our Mirvac team, Tony and Priya, as well as Rod Dixon and Rebecca from Road Group. Firstly, would like to thank the City of Swan for their commitment in considering the merits of this structure plan, and thank you to the town planning officers for the support of the Bullsbrook structure plan and the lifting of the urban deferment request. South Bullsbrook provides a significant opportunity to provide a sustainable master plan community that will showcase a market-leading outcome, aligned to the strategic growth and planning objectives of the Perth and Peel region, as well as the vision of the Bullsbrook Town District Structure Plan. Mirvac have been operating in the Northeast Corridor for over 15 years, delivering a number of successful projects, and we are proud of, and building on our long-standing relationship with the City of Swan. Our track record demonstrates our commitment to creating connected communities that are community-focused, delivering on the needs of the local community with high amenity outcomes that are delivered upfront. Mirvac's vision for South Bullsbrook provides a site-responsive design, leveraging the natural and physical elements for both the visual and functional amenity. It protects and preserves the Nadbroke Brook and maximises tree retention both in public open space and road reserves that will deliver the local Bullsbrook character that we're looking for. Our award-winning Henley Brook by Mirvac community has provided the team some great insights that has helped set the vision for South Bullsbrook, including our approach in respecting and acknowledging the site's Indigenous history as a key part of the story, and the value-added benefits in vegetation and tree retention in providing immediate amenity for the community to be. The team have worked closely with the city to refine the concept plan, addressing the key matters raised during consultation, and we are committed to continue to work with the city to capture the key modifications outlined. We thank the design review panel members' contribution and their support of the proposal, and their acknowledgement of the thoughtful design response to its context and its appealing and distinctive character that will set the benchmark for other communities in the future. Mirvac are committed in delivering a market-leading community that we will deliver a distinct rural-urban character, leveraging the environmental attributes of the site whilst delivering much-needed quality housing outcomes for the Northeast Corridor. We look forward to working with both the City of Swan team and the WAPC Commission in completing this structure plan and urban development outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Parsons. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Bowman.
Thanks for that. Just a couple of questions. You referenced Henley Brook development and top marks there for the playground where you kept all the established trees. Is that something you'll be trying to do in this development?
Yes, yeah, I think very much it's Henley Brook is something we're very proud of, and as I said before, is going to be setting the benchmark in how we're addressing the approach to Bullsbrook.
One of your competitors up in Bullsbrook, Kingsford, in my opinion, has done a really good job working with the local Landcare and the locals on what they've done with the brook. Noticing a watercourse goes through this development as well. Will your standards be that good as well?
Yes, that's actually been discussed a lot with the planning officers as well, and we've looked to retain that 30-metre buffer around the Nadbrook Brook, so we're very much wanting to focus on preserving.
And enhancing as well?
And enhancing, okay. Yes.
And final question is, have you got a solution in place for the lack of water that's already in Bullsbrook?
Good question. Sorry?
We have access to steam water on Great Northern Highway, so that the water issue in Bullsbrook doesn't actually relate to us. It's more located, concentrated towards North Bullsbrook.
So follow-up question, if I heard correctly, you said you get scheme water in from Great Northern. My understanding is that something for your first party development, first stage. So what's the solution for the future stages? Easy to do the first part, but I'm looking for the second and third part.
If we just get you to come up to the microphone, then you might be able to hear a little bit better. We might be able to. Thanks.
Sorry, just quickly. I think you're getting confused with regards to the wastewater, which is the sewer. So we have the ability to sewer the first 560 to 600 lots. Sewer, I think, is what you're getting confused with in water.
No, I know my difference between clean water that I drink and dirty water that I flush down my toilet. I believe you've got problems with both.
That's incorrect.
Okay. Okay, so you've
completely incorrect.
You've got enough scheme water access. Okay.
As per the servicing report and as per the comments from Water Corporation, we do have access to potable water. The only requirement going forward is sewer infrastructure, which is effectively regional sewer infrastructure, which will service South Bullsbrook and the future expansion of North Ellenbrook.
Okay. Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, and this might reflect into staff later as well. In regard to lot 401, it says that the owner has no interest or intent to develop this land holding in the foreseeable future, and there's no essential, it's not essential to coordinate access. Given that the land's going to be developed north and south of that lot, and it's effectively a spine road up the middle, would you foresee, or is there a planning need to effectively resume land from the owner of 401 to be able to put that road through?
First of all, to clarify lot 401, the landowner was adamant that he didn't want to participate in the rezoning of his land and did not want to participate in the structural planning of his land, which is his right. Second of all, yes, there are proposed roads to go through his land, but that'll be incumbent on him or whoever develops that land to deliver those roads, so to speak. We have a north-south connecting spine running through our project, but also runs adjacent to his land. So with the foresight to not disrupting development and allowing the natural progression and development of Bullsbrook to occur from the existing Kingsford estate all the way down to Stock Road as per the request to rezone the land to urban and also as per the structure plan. So in the future, whoever develops lot 401 will be responsible for delivering the required infrastructure associated with lot 401.
Further question?
Well, thank you, but I understand that, of course. My concern is that you'll have development north of it and south of it, and the ideal is to have that road through 401. I'm more concerned about his land being resumed off him. Maybe that's a question of staff.
Thank you. We can ask that in 6.3. Are there any further questions? Right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your deputation. And I'll ask Mr. Richard James in conditional support of the officer's recommendation. Hello, Mr. James, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, councillors, Mr. CEO. I conditionally support the local structure plan, provided that it can be implemented without any negative impacts on the environment and hopefully enhance and improve the local environment. However, my major concern relates to the potential negative impact on the local waterways that traverse the development site. The main waterway is the Nambar Brook, which flows into the Ellenbrook and then the Swan River. My concerns are as a result of poor controls of sediment and suspended solids entering the Kyat-Monga Brook from nearby developments, which have been allowed to happen as a result of poor City of Swan controls and conditions in the planning phase. This has been exacerbated by the lack of compliance checks by City of Swan compliance officers. I would like to remind councillors that the Environmental Protection Unauthorised Discharges Regulations of 2004 state that it is an offence to discharge certain materials into the environment, and the environment there is soil, surface water, groundwater and air. Sediment is listed as a material that must not be discharged into the environment. The Department of Water and Environmental Regulations interprets the word sediment to mean visible suspended solids in water. Compliance checking is so important as it identifies issues early so that they do not become a bigger problem in the future. That is why I made a public statement at the previous council meeting supporting the recruitment of an additional compliance officer for the asset management department. I would also suggest to all councillors that you obtain the full submissions from the government agencies so you can get a complete picture of any concerns that they may have. For example, the City of Swan Planning Department describes the submission from the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions as being neutral. However, on at least 5 occasions in their submission, they use the expression DBCA does not support or it is not supported. I would hardly call that neutral. So please access their submissions to ensure you are fully informed when this comes up for discussion next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. James. Councillor, do you have any questions? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Richard. In regard to the sediment issues, in fact, you brought a sample in previous meeting. Has that progressed any further that you're aware of, the fact that you brought it up and needed assessment?
The works that the Kingsford development have undertaken have been partially successful. They have managed to stop the heavy sediment influx into the Kayatmunga Brook, but to date they are still allowing sediment-enriched water into the brook. There are no detention basins in that particular area to capture the sediment-rich water, and I would hope that that will be taken into account during their next land clearing.
Thank you. Obviously, you're wanting to see things put in place with this development to be able to mitigate that up front. So hopefully we can see that. Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay. Councillors, are there any further questions for Mr James? No? Thank you very much for coming
Thank you.
tonight and for your deputation. And we move on to 14.3.2, Amendment 2 to the Brabham District Centre Precinct Structure Plan to include a portion of Lot 822 Yuildene Road, Brabham, Swan SP 2017/4/B. And we have in-person deputations for Ms Jane Bennett, CLE Town Planning and Design, in support of the officer's recommendation. Thank you very much, Ms Bennett, and you have 3 minutes.
Wonderful. I won't take all of that time. Thank you for your time this evening. Jane Bennett from CLE, we're the planners on the project, and I'm also accompanied by Alex from CLE and Amy Nancaro from Pete as well, so we're available for questions. We're speaking in support of item 14.3.2 on your agenda tonight, the proposed amendment 2 to the Brabham Precinct Structure Plan. We don't have an extensive deputation, but really are available for questions. The significant piece for this precinct structure plan will facilitate the delivery of enhanced facilities for the expanded community at Brabham. So it is a facilitation of an expansion of the existing precinct structure plan. So we welcome your questions, and we don't have a detailed deputation because the report is very thorough. So thank you.
No, thank you very much. Councillors ask, are there any questions? Councillor Bowman.
It's interesting you say the report's thorough because I still can't even find a map. Just with that, can you just advise me what parcel of land it is? Because without a map, it's hard to work it out. Is that the small parcel of land that at the last meeting we were talking about ecological link, and the meeting before I suggested that this part needs to be with Pete to actually make it a good outcome for a proper planning?
Thank you, Councillor. I'm not aware of the package of information that was provided to councillors. I've only received what's online, so I'll leave it to staff to discuss the plans. I do have a copy of the precinct structure plan here, which I'm sure would be made available to you. It is the section of land south of Yuildene Road. So you can see this is the Yuildene Road section here. That's the existing Whiteman Centre, and it's that area to the south. It is comprising of 3.6 hectares of commercial and then half a hectare of residential. So it's the area on LSP 3 that was blanked out subject to a future precinct structure plan. It doesn't extend the full way across to the station, as that's land outside of our ownership and subject to investigations for an MRS amendment and trunk infrastructure.
So it goes up to Drumpelia Drive?
No, it doesn't go up to Drumpelia Drive. This precinct structure plan amendment doesn't, but the staff may be able to provide maps to elected members, or we're able to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And just notes there does not appear to be a map with this, Mr. Russell. That needs to be rectified tomorrow and maps circulated to all council members.
Thank you. Councillor Dawn.
Okay, thanks for the maps coming. So does this encroach on the Bush Forever? It says in the agenda here, the vacant land, the Caversham airfield. So is this portion without the map, does that encroach on the Bush Forever?
No, it doesn't encroach on the Bush Forever. So it's to the very north of the site, near Yuildene Road. The Bush Forever land is far further south.
And apparently there's significant water issues there as well. Are they being addressed as well?
Do you
There's
mean in
a
terms of drainage?
Yeah, there's
or-
draining and flooding issues happening around that entire area as well. The community are sending a lot of emails in and complaining about that.
Sure. So there's the existing development north of Yaldine Roads, the Whiteman Edge project, managed by Stockland. Were the drainage issues through that area, perhaps? Yes. So that's outside of our project area. That's within the Stockland project north of Yaldine Road. The area south of Yaldine Road is yet to be developed. So that will, as a comprehensive drainage management strategy that's been prepared with the local structure plan to address that and has been assessed by DWER.
Thank you. Further question?
Oh, I guess I'll wait for a map.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. I had a look at the map on Docs this afternoon. So, first question is in regard to the road frontage. Are you planning to have the road frontage up against the existing 2-lane road, or are you making provisions for a further 2 lanes in the future, a 4-lane road?
The development abuts the MRS other regional road reservation. So it does start to truncate next to this site because it gets close to that interchange. So we are against the reserve. We're not up against the existing pavement for the road, but up against the road reserve. The preliminary investigations that we've done indicate that there is sufficient space within that road reserve, Councillor Henderson, to be able to widen it further, should that be required in the future.
Okay, I'll get clarification from staff on that. Thank you. The other issue, as Councillor Dawn has said, it is Palace Plain. There's a nice big puddle of water there at the moment. Just to be clear about the water management issues, all of your on-site water management is accounted for?
Yes, yes. It is, and it's part of the local water management strategy that's been prepared to accompany the local structure plan that's been submitted and reviewed by DWER.
Great, thank you. And the other question is that you propose a further roundabout on Yaldine Road. So there's literally one almost on top of the other. Can you give me some reasoning or justification for the one to the west of the, I think is an existing roundabout?
So there's one already at Everglades.
Yeah.
This one's at Marvel Entrance. So it's the extension of the main street. Apologies that you don't have a plan, but extension of the main street that's north of Yaldine Road through into this project area. It was an outcome of the design review of the City of Swan's design review panel, the support for the extension of a main street, which required full access through there. So the preference has been through the traffic analysis for a roundabout through there. So that's been the outcome through the design review process to enable full access there.
There's probably more ammunition about review panel. Thank
Further
you.
question, Councillor Henderson?
So in regard to the design, the roundabout would be a 2-lane roundabout, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, so if we're going to go to 4 lanes, that would have to all be ripped up and replaced with another roundabout.
Yeah.
Another one on top of it next door to it, literally a few hundred yards away or 100 yards away. So I cannot see the value out of 2 roundabouts on top of each other. So just want to get some justification on that minor roundabout. If that has to be removed because of 4 lanes, how would that impact the overall design north and south for the, if you like, the shopping area?
Sure. So there's no plans at the moment for the 4-lane. So that hasn't been required to be considered because it hasn't been proposed in any modelling or work that's been done. But it could very easily accommodate traffic lights at this intersection in the future, should there need to be 4 lanes, if there wasn't sufficient room for a roundabout. So our traffic engineers have looked at the current design for Yaldine Road and worked with that, but future and possible designs we haven't, but traffic lights could be accommodated here. And I agree with you, it would be unfortunate to pull up a constructed roundabout and put another one in, or a bigger one, and impact on the land.
Well, thank you for that concession. Can I just make a point though, and perhaps you haven't considered it in your design, And why haven't you considered in your design that community representation has been saying we need 4 lanes on Yuldean? So why haven't you gone to that extent?
The work and the design that we've been doing with Department of Planning for the Blue Road at the moment has suggested that it be the 2 lanes. I know that our project team have looked at alternatives most recently, and that has been raised, we're well aware, through LSP3 as well. So we have started to look at those options. But we're working through that LSP process with the department and that Blue Road reservation as part of LSP3 as well. But we understand the point that you're making, Councillor Henderson.
Councillors, are there any other questions? No? Thank you very much, Ms Bennett, for coming in with the team as well, and for that deputation, especially for answering the questions as well. I'll ask 6.3. Councillors, are there any questions in regard to items on the agenda for staff? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first is 14.1.2. It's in further response to the answers I got from my questions. I note on page 19, the scope has included that all council members attending briefing sessions and workshops to build their knowledge. So it would appear that there's going to be a condition for council members to access professional development training subject to attending briefing sessions and workshops. I won't say whether it's a good idea or a bad idea because it's question time. However, how will that be managed, or do staff need a alternative recommendation from council to put a figure in like what they've suggested in answer to 3?
Through you, Ms Hodgins.
Sorry, thank you. Councillor Bowman, if I draw your attention to the scope does talk about that all council members attend briefing sessions and workshops to build their knowledge of the unique challenges facing the city. So that's the aspirational intention of the policy. But through the policy, as my staff indicated, we haven't directly linked a certain attendance at briefings or workshops to whether you can actually access professional development. But I guess it wouldn't be unreasonable if you wanted to do that. I mean, for example, if someone didn't attend any of the budget workshops, but then asked to go to a financial literacy course, you might query that. So it's certainly open to council if they wish to do that.
My next question is on 14.1.3. And I noticed in the response to my answer, question 4, staff said an option could be for the Electoral Commission to do it. Can staff advise when other states have had the Australian Electoral Commission also be able to do it? Did the price go up or down?
Good question. Through you, Ms Hodgins, or through you, Mr CEO?
Thank you. I've made reference in the response to you, the Australian Electoral Commission. Most states prohibit other parties from initiating elections on behalf. The Australian Electoral Commission is the only formed body that's capable of running a similar scale election as to the states. But the monopoly is maintained by the state government to its own agency.
My next question is on 14.2.1. I'm trying to get my head around this. I asked questions about the $500 per square metre, and this is probably in relation to my question 5 and my answer 5, and I think I've actually worked it out now. It's only the cost to actually construct the car park, is that correct? And it doesn't include the land that the car park would sit on?
Through you, Mr Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that is correct.
So my next question then is, if it costs us $500 to build a car park in lieu of developers doing it, and with at least $1,000 a square metre in Allenbrook for the land, if we were to build 5 car parks for somebody, it would cost us 25 whatever. But however, the cost of the land is not recouped. So that would be an expense to our ratepayers. Is that correct?
To you, Mr Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, it is not, because we are not required to fund the acquisition or purchase of land to provide additional parking.
So my next follow-up question is, if we're not required to pay for it, or whatever the manager of planning said, where does the land come from? Who gifts us the land then?
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In relation to Allenbrook, the land has already been provided to the city by the developer LWP. That is the land that exists in current road reservations and the land that is provided and given over to the city as constructed car parks. That was provided, and the traditional or the prior parking strategies factored in amounts for the recompense of LWP for that land.
Further question, Councillor Bowman?
Yes, my next is on 14.5.1. It's a follow-up question to my question 13. This was unfavourable 70% utility charge, and response was that the budget was phased evenly over 12 months. Do we not evenly get charged utility over each month? Does it go up and down each quarter or something?
Through you, Mr. Trafaskas.
Through the chair, yes. Utilities will fluctuate depending on usage, so it can be seasonal or the like, so it will change month to month.
70% change?
I'd have to go through the detail of the invoice to confirm the change, but it is based on the actual expenditure compared to what's been phased in the budget.
Through the chair, unfortunately it's not unusual for Western Power not to be able to invoice on time. In the past, the variations in street light tariffs, etc., have all come in late. So we don't get a specific itemised account that would allow us to know from period to period how the bills are going to be levied. That's why we simply phase it and adjust it perhaps over the quarter.
My next question is on 14.5.4. It's a follow-up question to my question 19. What was the cost to get the report done?
Through you, Mr. Trafaskas.
Through the chair, so this is the report's part of a contract we have with the consultant, so it's not itemised, and it's part of their fee for the year, which includes advice on investments and monthly reporting as well. Our annual spend is about 13,600 per year.
My next question is on 14.5.5, and it's a follow-up question to my question 23. I still can't find where it says attachment 2, which is what we're being asked to adopt. Do I take it that because something's not listed as attachment 2, that is attachment 2?
Yes, through the chair. So it isn't, the attachment is in the top right-hand corner, 14.5.5.2, and it's the statement of financial activity is attachment 2.
Thank you.
I'll just note that on the previous pages it has attachment 1. And my final question is a follow-up question to 16.1, which was question 24, which was on the costs of the design review panels. I'm looking at answer 24 and I'm looking at answer 26. And as a finance person, I can't work out how what the costs are. Can we get a further explanation of what it's actually costing per meeting? Because if I look at the answer 26, one chairperson at $250 an hour, 3 panellists at $200 an hour, that's $950. And then additional cost of $250 provision of an assessment report by the chair has now been added, but no meetings programmed to exceed 3 hours in duration, so the maximum cost of a meeting is $3,650. However, it talks about $1,700 per meeting in the answer to 24.
Through you, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, thank you. Look, that's understandable, but very simply, the answer, Madam Mayor, is that one is the cost that we that the design review panel bills us, and the other is the cost that we bill the proponent or applicant. in essence. So the amount of $1,700 per meeting was the amount that was calculated back in 2019. It largely hasn't changed, but the latter amount is the amount that's introduced a more recent extra fee of $250 for the panel chair to spend time producing the post-meeting report.
Thank you. I'll ask councillors, is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? Councillor Dawn.
Thanks very much. Just in regards to 14.3.2 to the staff, to expand, if this is approved and to expand on the precinct structure plan based on CLE's traffic assessment, will that be a given that the roundabout will automatically be approved as opposed to even considering the Yildeen being expanded into a 4-lane highway? Would that just be a given that it'll be the best option would be to have another roundabout there instead of expanding on Yildeen Road?
Through you, Mr Russell.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I understand the question correctly, I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive. The roundabout in relation to the western roundabout in relation to Yildeen Road, that is the roundabout as Ms Bennett has explained, which will serve the continuation of Marvel Avenue or Marvel Entrance or whatever it's called. That will be the major link road between the northern part of the precinct and the southern one. You're having a roundabout. If you were to have dual lanes, all it necessarily would entail isn't that a roundabout is precluded. It's just that roundabout would be a roundabout to accommodate a dual lane road.
Right, do you have a further question? No. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, my question is about the professional development policy. And I'm looking at page 21 of the agenda, and I've got a question about, it's quite difficult to follow what section it is, but it's on that page 21, it's F. It says City funding for the Australian Institute of Companies Directors course identified above is capped at 50% of the total cost. Now that's something new, so what's the justification for that? Capping it at 50%, as it's quite an expensive course, and I doubt that councils would be able to afford it if they weren't fully funded. So what's
I'll ask through Ms
what's the
Hodgson, so she might be able to elaborate on that.
Through you, presiding member, Councillor Deputy Mayor, it is for that exact reason, because of the cost of the course. So it was felt that it was reasonable to look to seek a contribution of equal value from a councillor attending it.
So I guess the opposite thinking is that because it's so expensive and it's so valuable, it would be a good idea to fund councils. So how much is it?
Oh, I couldn't be 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident it's around about 11,000.
That's just what I was thinking too. So a councillor doing that very valuable course would have to pay the $11,000 up front. Is that right? And then take the exam, pass the exam, and then get their $5,500 back from the city. Is that the plan?
No, the plan isn't necessarily that they would have to fund it up front, but that it would be shared equally.
Okay, next question is, it says council members, I think we mean elected members, will not be eligible to attend this course in their last term of office. How do you know when your last term of office is?
That is a very good question.
What's the answer? Nobody knows the answer.
Well, I think that's, I would take that
this?
on board and
Can we edit
we'll
this?
have a look at it.
Yeah, if we can get that changed. Next question relates to 14.5.2, which is accounts payable. So I'm looking at page 313 of the agenda, and if I can just find that, it says about 3 or 4 items down, it says 0394 Denham WA PTY fuel, and then we've got Ampol Exmouth fuel, Shell Pardue fuels, Shark Bay fuel fishing. I don't understand why we're paying a petrol station that's hundreds of kilometres away.
Through Mr Travascus. or Mr Southern, sorry.
So through you, Madam Mayor, the city has a contract with BP to provide fuel for the city's vehicles. Where there is no BP fuel station within reach, i.e. those locations, staff will use other service stations and then claim those funds back from the city. This travel would likely be in line with the staff member's personal use of the vehicle as provided under their contract.
So what, a staff member can drive up to Exmouth to go fishing?
No, through
Well,
you, Mr.
looks, that's what it says here.
So the city's motor vehicle management practice allows staff personal use of the vehicle anywhere within Western Australia.
So how many staff have got that use?
Personal use goes to managers and executive.
So how many of those are there?
I have to take that on notice unless...
Thank you. Thank you. And it's probably approximately 20. However, the only time a staff member would do that is they've usually sought permission as part of their long service leave or something to be able to use the vehicle outside of the general metropolitan area. So driving to neighbouring countries, and I think from memory this was the waste manager who was on their long service leave, or it might have been Mr Coaten who was on his long service leave and was travelling within the state. So the policy allows them to use the vehicle on private use whilst there, but not to take it outside of the state. Unfortunately, going north, we're a very large state.
So this is a policy and not a contract matter?
So the provision of a motor vehicle is contractual. The restrictions on where you use the motor vehicle are covered in staff policy.
Okay, so it looks to me then if we are going to be restricting councillors to 50% of a very valuable course, there's no reason why we couldn't restrict staff to using their vehicles within the city as well. Next question is on page 314. It says roll toll charge Sydney. So now we're getting outside of the state. So that's right at the top line.
Page 314, where was that? Halfway down?
314, right at the top.
Thank you.
Top,
I note,
yep.
Madam Mayor, those
Maybe I've
two
misread that.
charges relate to a conference in the East Coast, and they were both, I think, my charges when we were out at the arrangement in Penrith. But to go from the city of Sydney to get there, you have to hire a car. And to hire a car, you've got to go across tunnels, the M5 and the M6. So all those are linked charges that come back through the tunnel use. The same thing would apply if an elected member were at a conference in the East Coast and had need to get to a location by a taxi. They would also be levied to those costs.
It's good to hear there's a good explanation for it. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I had Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to start on the 1421 and two questions. In regard to the $7,500 per bay, I'm trying to work out how it is $7,500 is the figure when, for instance, if you were putting a bay in on the council verge, the cost to do it was $15,000 per bay. This I'm talking about Malaga as an example. So I'm trying to work out, the council owns the land, so if you're putting a bay in to provide for more staff or whatever, you pay 15 grand per bay. So how is it, you already own that land, how is it that it's suddenly become half the amount?
I might put that through to Mr Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can't speak to the matter of Councillor Henderson referring to the cost for the city's assets team to put a bay in. That's not included in this report. I can only speak to what's in this report. And this report says that the cost at 500 square metres and the numbers of square metres you require to compose an ordinary Australian standard car bay, you get the figure of $7,500. So I can't speak to any comparison to another purported cost that might have been derived elsewhere in a different circumstance.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Perhaps I might discuss that with the CEO after the meeting because I see a clear conflict there. On page 121, under 5.3, it talks about provision of shade trees and the like in the public realm. But that's a good thing. I get that. But what worries me is that we're talking about provision of other things in the public realm. So, what does that mean? We end up with less car bays because we're putting money into something else? I really don't see how this part can be in our policy when we're talking about constructing bays and we could be spending money on other things.
I'll ask Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The whole principle of a cash in lieu arrangement for the provision of on-site parking is to be able to, in one instance, to take funds to procure land and construct car parking bays elsewhere. But more importantly these days, the consideration for development applications in terms of the provision of parking has broadened to beyond merely the provision of parking to the provision of other means, perhaps other than parking, for the community, customers, residents or whatever, to access a site by means other than driving. And so that includes, and a classic example many of your councillors might recall, is the Guildford Access and Parking Strategy. And most councils these days are accepting as a principle that you might take money in lieu of provision of parking on site, but not just that, in lieu of provision of parking off site, and to channel that money into promoting and providing infrastructure for other means of accessing a property, be that walking through pedestrian arrangements, cycling facilities, end-of-trip facilities, etc. Improving the pedestrian environment with street furniture, shade trees and the like. So it's not a combination of using the money to enhance the accessibility of a proposal, not merely by parking, but by other means, public transport, wayfinding, pedestrian access, cycling, etc.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
So,
Russell.
so Mr. Russell, effectively you're saying that the car parking is one issue and there's no funding for the other matters which should possibly be funded elsewhere. Is that effectively what we're saying?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't believe so. I think what the instrument is saying, and this is well acknowledged by the WA Planning Commission and most of our planning policies, which are orientated to say we need to make a provision of access on multiple means. Traditional means of driving and parking, pedestrian, walking. In some instances we might be talking in the modern age scooters, bicycles, public transport. So all of those come into the mix with respect to, you might, in some instances you might say cash in lieu of access infrastructure arrangements, if you wanted to be more precise around it. We use the term cash in lieu of parking because it's applied at a set rate for a deficit of on-site bays that a proposal might entail.
Further question?
I don't think I got an answer, but thank you. I'll move on because I think that's just wrong. If people are paying for a parking bay, we should be spending on parking bays. I'll move on to page 169, which talks about that lot 401, which is the Bullsbrook South Structure Plan. I did ask the question of the presenter about whether or not land could be resumed off the owner of 401 to make that road go through and make it a direct through road. Would there be provisions in the resumption capabilities to take land for that road and split that block down the middle? And could that happen to the owner?
Through you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I understand the question is that what powers or what opportunities have the city got to independently engage with the owner of lot 401 to resume land for the provision of a north-south road? Is that you understand that? That's the question. Yes. Normally, in the first instance, a planning instrument would depict a purpose for taking the land. So if it's for a road, you might have a structure plan or another plan over it that might indicate. The question as to whether or not the depiction on this plan of a northward link would be suffice to express an intent to take the land, such that we may then enter into negotiated arrangements. But there is absolutely nothing at all, even independent of those instruments, for the council to engage with the landowner seeking to design and acquire the provision of a road. And a classic example is the work that this council has done up in Shady Hills, Bullsbrook, with the much needed and timely and welcome provision of a through access road between Shady Hills across that estate land linking into, I believe it's Lade Road, so down the bottom of this area here. So in short, Madam Mayor, yes, we have those powers. We can do that. We don't have to rely on roads to be gifted and provided at the time of subdivision if we feel it's necessary to do so early, and the Shady Hills is a prime example of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so if that were to happen, who would pay for it?
Madam Mayor, it stands to reason, of course, that if we're acquiring the land, we are paying for it, and so more precisely, the ratepayers of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought that would be the case. So if that were the case, who would it benefit? Would it benefit the, in particular, this applicant to the south and the urban area to the north?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Years ago, I was involved in a SAT case where the very argument in play was who benefits from the road and who should contribute. And with roads, of course, you can say a great many diverse parties benefit from the improvements of accessibility. So I would say in this instance, everyone in the whole Bullsbrook structure plan area, south, north and middle, would benefit from such a road connection.
Further question?
Oh yeah, plenty. So, okay, so the ratepayer pays, thank you. So the next one is 213. In regard to the minor roundabout to the west of the main roundabout that's already there, have staff assessed the real need for that, considering that you can actually you can get across the existing roundabout? Have they assessed it, one, in terms of the existing roundabout, but also in terms of the future possible need of it being a four-lane roundabout?
Through you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the assessment of the provision of intersection treatments on Yuildene Road was the subject of the Brabham Stage 3 local structure plan proposal. And the intention, as the proponent has indicated, to provide a roundabout there is to recognise that this town centre precinct has two main roads, but the principal main road with respect to a main street for commercial uses will be the roundabout to Marvel Avenue or entrance, whatever you call it. That will be the main street thoroughfare linking the northern precinct with the southern precinct, and then moving westwards to ultimately feed into the new train line, train station. So the rationale is, rather than to have everyone clogging up one roundabout intersection, you would disperse the traffic movements north and south, east and west across two. So the general principle, as we know in traffic planning, is that whilst one route might provide a connection, a multiplicity of routes is superior because it provides a contingency connection when one is down, and it has the benefit of dispersing the traffic so that you don't have a single congested access way. So multiple access ways, and in this instance, the roundabout with the connection to Marvel Avenue serving that purpose.
Councillor Henderson, do you have a further question?
Just in regard to that then, so we're prepared to restrict the flow, which will be significant, of traffic that will run along Yuildene from Henley Brook Avenue, which goes without saying, I think, by putting in multiple roundabouts when we could, in fact, perhaps restrict it to one roundabout. So would that be the case, or have I got my thinking wrong? Have the modelling of numbers, north-south versus east-west, been assessed, and the impact of the roundabouts?
Through you, Mr. Russell.
Through you, Madam Mayor. If the question is, could we do away with the roundabout and still have an unregulated four-way intersection, I suppose you could instead have traffic lights, but I don't even know that spacing between the traffic lights and the other western roundabout intersection would be problematic. But I think the very heart of it is if you don't have an intersection treatment, nominally a roundabout, then you're going to have a dysfunctional north-south Marvel entrance. You won't be able to get at risk from one side to the other. If Yilldene Road has a certain volume of traffic, you won't find the space to be able to get through. You need a traffic management device, a roundabout. If you decided not to have Marvel Avenue as a joining connection and simply have one main road through there, or subdivision road, you might do away with the need for the roundabout. But because the whole design of the precinct as a main street and connecting in with the rail station to the west is based on this, you need to have a form of intersection treatment. If it's not a roundabout, it would have to be lights. If you don't want to have any intersection treatment, you're more or less precluding the safe and effective operation of that road connection.
Okay, so we had this discussion under Brabham 3, so it would seem to me as though I'll have to sit down with staff and have the discussion again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howlett, you had a question? Thank you. Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question on 14.1.1. When staff did a review of this policy, did they find that other local governments changed the name to reflect honorary free person? I don't know who that would be directed to.
I'll ask through Monsieur Hutchins.
Through you, presiding member, yes, staff did undertake research and looked at how other local governments had retitled this position, and there were a number of different titles, such as honorary free person being one of those options.
Do you think for the benefit of council, you could maybe outline some of the benefits of changing the title compared to the original one?
Well, I guess this is my opinion, but in my opinion, I think to retitle it to something like an honorary free person is more inclusive. It's not gender specific, so it'd be language that I think a lot of people would feel comfortable with. But that's totally up to council to make that decision. And when we took it to the briefing, because the sense in the room was, it was sort of, I guess, 50-50, I think it's for council, probably a councillor, if they feel strongly about that, to bring forward an alternate.
Thank you.
Councillor Bowman.
With the local governments that have a policy on freeman, free person, free whatever, are the majority still titled freeman?
Through you, Ms Hutchins.
I would have to take that on notice, presiding member. I couldn't say to you whether the majority are. I think the staff, as is our normal practice, tend to look at other band 1 governments and see what they're doing. But I couldn't tell you if that was the majority.
Yeah, we'll take that on notice and we'll see if we can get some more information for you. Councillors, are there any further questions for staff? If not, I thank everyone tonight for coming. Those are online still.
I've got a question in the red folder, please.
Okay, so, sorry. Yeah, so we've got a question which is in our confidential section. So we'll say goodnight to those in the gallery and thank you very much for joining us tonight and presenting. And for those watching at home, we've just come back from discussing a confidential item, and I'd like to thank all councillors and those that came in tonight in the gallery, and I declare this meeting closed at 7:06. Thank you.